Hi, everyone. Welcome to Expo North Digital Shorts. We have a very special guest here today and somebody who has co-created a website that I am now using all the time. We have Will from FilmDoo. Hi, Will.
Hello, how are you doing? Good to hear you've used the website. Fantastic. I'm really pleased to hear that.
It's awesome. It's so good. And I know you're joining us from Berlin, which is also very exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, no worries. So hi everyone, my name's William Page or Will Page. I'm one of the founders of FilmDoo, which is a platform to help people to discover content from around the world. My background was actually originally in law. I was a lawyer, and then a few years ago, people
What
never
happened?
Yeah, I had an epiphany. And then a few years ago, I got really frustrated that my co-founder and I couldn't watch a Korean film of all films.
Yeah.
We wanted to see called Masquerade, which won tons of awards and couldn't be found. So we looked into the film industry and realized that there were some serious problems with distribution. So we co-founded FilmDoo. It's grown to have around 2,500 to 3,000 films and short films from
Wow.
around the world. Usually gets around 500,000 visitors a month, but we are now increasingly focusing on language and cultural learning through film, which is really exciting. So yeah, interesting times. A lot going
Wow,
on.
that's so cool. I have to say it is amazing in an afternoon because it's a perfect time to explore it in COVID. But in an afternoon, you can go from Japan to Taiwan to
Exactly.
Australia to the Netherlands. And I should say the level of content that you guys pick is like crazy high quality. It's something
Oh,
that
thank
you'd
you.
expect to see at like Cannes. So
Oh wow.
um,
Cheers.
I have so many questions for you. There's
Go ahead.
free content and paid content
Correct.
on there. What bar do you set in terms of the stuff on there? Do you have to watch everything? I mean, like, how do you curate it so that it's such high quality?
Yeah, that's a great question, by the way. So we do watch everything, not necessarily me personally. We've got about half a dozen people in the team. We watch everything. We pick up films directly from producers. We also pick them up from sales agents, and we pick them up from distributors at the local level. We're increasingly picking them up directly from the producers, more so than anywhere else. The business model is a transactional video on demand, so people pay for what they watch, and there's some shorts that are free. But actually, we want to move towards either having a full subscription service, which is a lot more difficult to do than people realize, or just having a free service supported by advertising. Because just not to geek everyone out, but there's a general industry issue, which is that people don't want to pay for content on a
Yeah.
pay-per-view basis. So, we're trying to change our business model to adapt to changes in user behavior, which is easier said than done.
Yeah. So there's a lot of questions when you talk about distributors and producers and people
Yeah.
approaching you guys, because I'd love to see some Scottish films on there. I know there's a
We'd
lot of
love
good Scottish
to
content.
have more Scottish films on there, yeah.
Yeah. Do
Please.
you guys ever get approached by filmmakers, or do you recommend they actually go to a sales agent and then have them approach you? How does that work?
Another great question. Yeah. Wow. So, look, if I was unscrupulous and just wanted everything for us, I would go, oh, hey, just come to us, forget about the sales agents. But we're not like that. Sales agents actually do have an important role to play in the industry in terms of getting your film into the theatre and being picked up by distributors. So if a producer comes to us and says, hey, we've got a film, my first question is, do you have a sales agent?
Yeah.
And where are you in that process of making that film? Is it made? Has it been released, etc., etc.? Now, if it has a sales agent, and the sales agent has tried to sell it as best they can, then that's great. We'll take the film from the producers. If they come to us and say, no, we haven't got a sales agent yet, then I will always recommend that they try and get a sales agent first, because I still believe passionately that cinema has an important role to play, and I
Yeah.
want their film to be seen in cinema, and we don't do that at the moment. So I want that film to get the life that it needs
That's
internationally.
amazing.
So yeah, that's what we try to do. So my advice, funnily enough, I'm pleased you asked the question, is when I talk to filmmakers, I always say this, because there's a lot of good sales agents, but there's also a lot of really bad sales agents.
Yeah.
So I always say to them, look, get a sales agent, But when you're negotiating the contract with the sales agent, you want to have a clause in there that stipulates that within 2 years, after 2 years of the sales agent taking the film, in the event that they are unable to sell it into a country, so let's say they pick up a film, they send it to the US, they send it to UK, send it to France, but they don't sell it into Germany, for example, then the producer has the right to sell that film, the online rights, the VOD rights, to sell that film in countries where it's not been sold.
Brilliant. That's a great clause to have. Well,
Because the important point to note is that sales agents typically put the film on the shelf and don't do anything with it after 2 years.
Okay. Well, what I really like about that is that you're approaching it from a film fan first, like someone who's just very passionate about films and cinema and the creation process and artist. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
If do you guys have like any requirements? So like if it did get distribution somewhere, but they're still able to have the film through you, do you guys require premiere status, or are you happy to have it after it's been in the cinemas?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, happy to do that. Happy to have day and date release if they want. Happy to experiment with different forms of release. We're pretty experimental, so we're open to ideas on that.
So my last question to you before we move on to this evolution that's now happening at FilmDoo is, as I was watching all these different short films, and again, it was such a joy because they're beautiful and they're short and you get to have all these flavors kind of in a very short amount of time. I saw actors, I was like, yeah, I want to work with her. She's amazing. Or God, what happened to the screenwriter? Are you aware of any success stories of how this provides visibility for artists and what happens to them after being on your platform?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is be like a place where they can promote themselves. We need to do a lot more there, in all frankness. So we do have some examples. So there was one film which was a beautiful documentary, a 39-minute short documentary, which nearly crashed our website.
Really?
Because it got so many views, mostly from China, I must confess. It was, let's just say it was a little bit critical of the Chinese government.
Interesting.
Yeah, so very topical. To this day, we still get quite a lot of views of that. But that's a really unusual story, because to have a 39-minute pay-per-view short documentary is highly irregular. But typically, it's just we use for the short filmmakers where they can just have their film seen, they can try and raise awareness, they can try and connect with users, they see reviews when people leave reviews, they can do some of that feedback. But I think we need to do more there. So it's a really good point. We're actually just about to launch within the next touch wood in the next couple of weeks. We're about to launch a user upload so that filmmakers can upload content directly to the platform. And obviously, if we feel it fits the platform, we can put it on our platform, and we can also potentially sub-license it elsewhere to other partners. But that's not yet launched. That should launch in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome. So, okay, I know you and I had chatted a little bit about before we spoke about, my family is a family of immigrants that came over from Germany, and the way they learned English was through the movies. So tell me a little bit about what's happening at FilmDoo and where you guys are expanding.
Yeah, thank you. So we noticed that increasingly language learning blogs were saying, hey, if you want to learn Japanese, go to see FilmDoo. It's got great Japanese films. Hey, if you want to learn French, go to FilmDoo. It's got great French films. So we were like, okay, this is pretty interesting. What's going on here? So we asked about 20,000 of our users, are you watching this film to learn French, to learn Japanese, etc., etc.? And depending on the language, about 70 to 75% said yes.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we were like, oh, that's pretty interesting. So then we looked at the landscape to see if there was a way we could change the platform or create technology that uses film as a medium to help people to learn language and culture through games and activities. And then we applied to Creative Europe last year for a grant, and we got a fairly decent, sizable grant to launch. Actually, it's going to launch a new platform which will focus on English, French, Dutch, German, and Luxembourgish.
Wow,
and we'll basically focus on Benelux, UK, and France.
wow,
Um,
that's
so
awesome.
yeah, so we are, funny enough, looking for Scottish content, and funny enough, we're talking to Film Wales to potentially give us Welsh language content.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. That's
So,
brilliant. I might be able to help you there.
oh, okay, cool.
Brilliant.
Yeah, the more the merrier. Yeah, no, we Scottish content, and funny enough, just the other day I was reading about Scottish Gaelic. So
Yeah.
actually, it needs some support. So and we actually want to. I'm going slightly off tangent, but we actually
No,
want to have a separate. Um, how do I describe it? There's a separate part to the website which will be entirely for free, which is for endangered languages or for languages that
oh,
need support.
amazing.
That's something we'd love to do.
That's so great because there was Unorthodox was a show that premiered on Netflix, and it bounced back between German and Yiddish and English,
Oh,
and it was
really?
actually really amazing to kind of hear that relationship. So I think
Because Yiddish is a
honest,
very unusual language, isn't it? It's like a
yeah,
hybrid Hebrew and German language.
I mean, this is linguists are gonna like their heads are gonna fall off when I say this, but I think it's like a hot dog of Eastern European languages. It's like a lot of stuff to
Really?
smush together with maybe like a little sprinkle of Hebrew put in.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Very cool.
yeah.
I need to do more research on Yiddish. Quite clearly, my business partner speaks multiple languages. It's more her baby. I've got the linguistic abilities of a fish, but
Well, I was just so do I. I really relate to you there. So which language would you take up through your own website if you were going to have to learn one?
that's actually an easy one. Italian.
Italian. Oh, well done. That's great.
I have some Italian heritage, so yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that's
I
really
also
good.
have some Jewish heritage, so Hebrew would be second.
Brilliant. And then Yiddish should be third.
I guess so.
Given where
Yeah.
you live, it would you'll understand German in a different way, I
Yeah,
think.
exactly. I walk into a bar. I
Yeah,
don't know that word. Yes, I know that from Yiddish.
exactly. Oh, well, this is so exciting. Can I ask, is there a timeline for that for you guys? Do you have like a hope in mind about when we can visit back and
It's imminent.
imminent? Awesome.
Um, like the next few months. It's
God, you've
pretty
been hard at work. That's really great.
soon. Yeah. I mean, we got a beta version that's a very loose beta version that's launched, but we're kind of keeping that. Yeah, it's not something we're actively promoting, but yeah, it's imminent. We're looking for 100 hours of content for each of the languages,
Wow.
which has been challenging for Luxembourgish.
Wow, I can imagine. I know, but maybe that's when you start doing a film festival call out for people to
Yeah, yeah,
content too.
exactly. Funny you mentioned film festivals. We actually ran a session a few weeks ago on film festivals moving online due to the impact of COVID-19. So they're on my. I've got to go back to a few of those festivals. A few in the US, funnily enough. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, here's my last question because we're running out of time, and I hate that we're running out of time. But is FilmDoo, do you think, COVID proof? Have you noticed a change in usership as kind of we're all in lockdown?
Um, yeah. I mean, everything's gone up. But I should point out that I'm still on the board of directors of Eurovod, which is
Okay.
an association of European VOD platforms. So I hear what's going on across the industry. So on one hand, it's been great because all the platforms have seen growth. So obviously great from the point of view of the platforms. But then again, we've seen our theatre sector just suffer incredible pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great from that point, but it's been really horrible from the point of view of the theatres, which we hate to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, like, as much as I appreciate, the traffic's gone up and more people are watching films online, which is good, and I think is an important change.
Yeah.
We need to remember that cinemas are where films, you know, their heart and soul is. But I think it also reinforces, and this is an important point, it reinforces that cinemas and VOD platforms are not enemies of each other, that we're actually partners, and that we need to work more closely together. And because ultimately, I see theatres as not just places where people can watch a film, but it's where they can have an experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's what is really important to get across. So I'm hoping out of this crisis, theatres will realise that we're not the enemy. VOD platforms are not the enemy. We're actually their partners.
I like that vision. I'll mend that for someone who does use both. I totally understand. I totally understand that. Um, Well, I have to ask you the last question now, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I always ask guests if they had one little bit of advice, and it can come out of your previous work experiences, maybe time when you were a lawyer and you find that there's crossover in what you're doing now, or something someone's told you in the past.
Always read the contract.
Yeah, always read the contract. Well, exactly.
I'm
So,
just kidding.
yeah, that's a good bit of advice. What's your one little piece of advice to throw into the Expo North digital pot?
Oh, wow, that is a tough question. I would say, I guess I'd focus more on being an entrepreneur. So by all means, give it a shot. Try your best, but try. What's the expression? Fail fast. So give it a shot, and if you fail, don't worry. There's nothing wrong with that. And to be frank with you, that's one of the great things about your country, America. I do love that about the US, where American culture really actually celebrates failure because people learn from that failure and move on. Whereas I think we Brits are a little bit more stuck up, I guess you could say, in the sense that we don't really appreciate failure because you learn through doing. So yeah, in summary, my advice would be give it a shot, try, and if at first you don't succeed, just try again.
That's really solid and very important advice, because you do learn more through failure than you do through success.
Oh yeah, we've made plenty of mistakes. just try not to make the same mistake twice.
Well, that's good advice too. That's very comforting to hear. Oh, well, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing the evolution of FilmDoo and trying out some of the new stuff that's available.
Look forward to coming to the expo next. Yeah, look forward to coming to the expo in the future.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Take care.